my shooting, have confidence going out and shooting that shot. If they respected my shot more, we probably would have been going through what we did all season. Instead of the big playing back off me, would play like how it was during the season. So that would have helped us a lot. Developing chemistry with our shooters in situations when teams are going to play us or try and take away A and B from us. We have to have an option ready. And then obviously defense, working on that, getting in shape more, being able to sustain. I feel like we grew a lot during this playoff series with our defense. And if we can sustain that during a year, that's going to help us a lot.
1, go.
Welcome into the King's Court on a Monday, the weekly edition, Monday through Friday. Ryan in Sacktown coming to you live on X, live on YouTube. We've got a ton of show for you today. Quite frankly, I could go probably an hour and 30 minutes, but that's not why I'm here. I want to hear from all of you today. How was the weekend? What did you see? Did anything perk your ears up? There's plenty to talk about. I can get you started with a few topics. How about the NBA playoffs right now? The NBA playoffs are going strong. The Phoenix Suns swept out of the playoffs. How you feeling about that? If you're Sacramento, if you're Phoenix, what direction are you headed? If you're the Suns, I mean, are you blowing it up? Are you going to, what are you going to do? Fire the coach? There's some reports out there about that as well. So we can get into that. If you covered or you listened to the King's Court over the weekend, I've been doing my deep dive into the Kings season. And one of the things that we've talked about all season was the eye test with the Sacramento Kings. And we felt like we saw them do things, but we weren't able to substantiate it with numbers. Well, guess what? The numbers are there. I'm going to give them to you here in a little bit. We can talk about the Lakers. How about the Lakers getting a win against Denver? How about Philly? New York fan, Patrick, where are you at in Long Island? I want to hear from you. New York fan goes into Philadelphia and takes over the building. We've got audio of that as well. And it is the premiere, the Monday premiere. This is going to be a Monday thing going forward. The premiere of the Rideos. Those are the worst things or the questionable things that I saw over the weekend. You notice that wheel to my right. It is filled with my Rideos. No. And we're going to spin the wheel in a little bit there. We'll get to some of those. If you guys have anything that you saw over the weekend that you did not like, you can add it to the wheel. I'll put it on the wheel if I like it. You can get those in via the chat. You can also join as well via phone or video. You can hit that or take a picture of that link over my shoulder, or the link to join the show is in the chat. You can actually come on without being on camera. It'll just be like a regular telephone call. You don't have to be, again, on camera. So if you want to chime in, anything you want to talk about, those are just a few things that I've got on the list. But certainly I want to lead with this. The Sacramento Kings, that's what we're here about. And by the way, if you guys want to talk NFL draft, that's all wrapped up. Free agent signings also wrapped up. So did your team get the guys you wanted in the draft? Did you do well in free agency? And when I say free agent, undrafted free agents, that's a really big thing. Think about some of the guys that have stuck as undrafted free agents. There is actually a method to the madness. I know he was drafted, but Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, look what he turned into. That is not a sole case. There's many other cases of that. So we can get into all that as well. Like I said, I've got about 10 things on the right. Wheel. Yeah, we're going to spin it in a little bit. We'll spin it throughout the show. We might have some guests dropping by as well, but happy you're here, Ryan, in Sacktown. We're going to start with the Kings. So if you listen to the Kings Court over the weekend, we talked about the trade situation with the draft pick. What do the Kings need to do? What can they do? And there was a little bit of gray area there, a little bit of ambiguity about could they trade the pick? Could they not trade the pick? Well, Bobby Marks cleared that up. That trade or that pick can't be traded the day of the draft, apparently. We put some of that audio on the Kings Court Saturday. You can go back and listen to it as well. He had some comments about the Kings, too. The one that stuck out the most to me was this. He didn't think that the Sacramento Kings had hit their ceiling talent-wise. Now, I've got an additional take about what we're seeing in the NBA playoffs right now relative to the Kings that we can get to later, but I want to stick to this for right now. He thought a lot of the struggles were the inconsistencies, really just bad basketball IQ altogether. Welcome, by the way, to the 60 you're watching live, whether it's on X or YouTube. Feel free to comment. Would love to hear from you. Obviously, you can scan the QR code, come up on the show as well if you'd like. So that, for me, gives me a little optimism, right? You look at other teams in the West, and I don't disagree, and it made me kind of do a little bit of a deeper dive. And when you take a step back, what's up, Condog? First in today on a Monday. Happy to have you here, buddy. Glad you could make it in. So, anyways, getting back to what I was saying, I think the Kings are in a decent situation, as we know. Cap-wise, they're not positioned terribly. There's teams that are in similar situations, if not worse situations, that are positioned much worse than the Kings are. So, I started thinking about what Bobby Marks was saying. And you guys know, I dig into the numbers. I look for trends. It's something that is really big to me. And one of the beefs or one of the contentions that I've had with the Sacramento Kings this season, and contentions that many of the fans have had, is the inconsistency, the offense getting constipated. It does. And it comes, it goes, it usually shows up in pressure situations. It shows up against bad teams. And so you look at some of the Kings' numbers on the whole. And, you know, I talked about free throws last week, how free throws were a problem. Attempts way down, made free throws way down. We know about the percentage being down. But here's the other thing about the free throws. I tied them into turnovers as well. I likened it this way. Free throws, turnovers in transition are the special teams of basketball. Tell me I'm wrong. That is special teams to me. Offense, defense, pretty straightforward. So if we're going to use a football analogy, that is where the Kings can win that third phase of the game. Turnovers this year, they were down 2.5% or down 2.5%. So not terrible. That's good. Now, you still had Sabonis. You had Fox in the top 20 in turnovers this season in the NBA. And that's going to be tied to my other take that we'll talk about with the Kings later. And that's based off of the NBA playoffs. So I looked at the turnovers. You know, usually when a team is winning, the turnovers are low, right? They're playing better. And also, what are they doing? They're getting buckets. They're getting assisted buckets. So these numbers were shocking, and it explains everything that we've talked about with the Kings when they play bad teams and they play down to their level, when the offense goes stagnant. Literally, the Kings season numbers are backwards. Listen to this. In losses, the Kings attempted 780 free throws. Now, that one is as it should be because the Kings, getting a call right here, can't take that at the moment. That stat is exactly as it should be because attempts were lower. So it makes sense. Free throw attempts lower in losses. Now in wins, the Kings had 980 free throw attempts. So, okay, we're normal, right? We're copacetti. Now let's get over to turnovers. Okay. Turnovers in wins, 518 turnovers in wins. Okay, 518. It is what it is. Can the Kings improve on it? Sure. The reason that De'Aaron and Domas are in the top 20 is because of the roster construction. The Kings did not have really any true distributors, and especially with Malik Monk off of the floor. So, anyways, my point being is 518 turnovers and wins. Do you know how many turnovers the Kings had in loss this season? Anybody want to take a stab? You know what? We've got our first call of the day. Let's bring Condog up. He's been following the season. Condog, welcome to the King's Court Live. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing good. Did some yard work, so I'm a little sweatier than usual.
No worries. No worries. So what's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Well, honestly, I want to talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
They are for real.
Yeah.
This is a good Pelicans team, and they are really taking it to them. And this is a Pelicans team we, as Kings fans, have seen the most out of any team has seen in a regular season, 6 times. So we should know that this Pelicans team is a good team, and the Thunder are taking care of business.
Yeah, Condog, Grant says all the time, Jerry says it all the time, NBA is about matchups, right? And the Kings just don't match up well with the Pelicans, but then conversely, the Pelicans don't match up well with Oklahoma City. The Kings would be giving OKC a much better series than the Pelicans can give them, and especially when you don't have Zion Williamson. But yeah, Oklahoma City, to me, Condog, they don't know how good they are. That's kind of it's like the story of the movie you see where the girl doesn't know she's that pretty, and then the popular guy starts dating her, and oh my gosh, we are prom queen and king, right? Well, Oklahoma City damn well might find themselves in a championship position this year.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing great basketball at the right time. Like that's all you can ask for of any team when it comes to this point in the season. Are you playing your best basketball or are you not?
Yeah, no, exactly right, man. Exactly right. So I'm gonna keep you up just for this moment. I want to recap where we're at and what I found this weekend about this Kings team. So to recap, for the season, the Kings shot 730 free throws in losses. In wins, they shot 980. We're good there. Okay. All good. Turnovers in wins. They turned the ball over 578 times in wins. Condog, you know how many times they turned the ball over in losses?
You know what? I'm just going to flat out say it was double of what the wins was.
457.
So we turned the ball less in losses?
457. Less turnovers in losses. You know why that is? Isolation basketball. We talked about it when the Kings don't move the ball. It's isolation basketball. It's taking the first 3 that you see. It's bad basketball IQ decisions. It's not getting your teammates involved. In what world do you have less turnovers, significantly less turnovers than you do in wins? It's crazy.
That's a shocker. Like I know a lot of us have said during the season, during losses, the offense looks stagnant at a lot of times, especially in that third quarter where they look sluggish. They don't want to move around. There's no ball movement. That third quarter was probably our Achilles heel the whole year.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like that funk would come around, And I think one thing the playoffs, Condog, by the way, thanks for the call today, buddy. I really appreciate you kicking. Hey, before I let you go, do you have anything bad you saw from the weekend? Anything that made you go, don't?
Anything bad? I'm going to say 76ers in execution down the stretch.
All right. 76ers in execution. I think I got
Joel Embiid mainly because he's not taking almost any shots in the fourth. He's not even getting the ball. He's not demanding the ball and just taking over the game. Like the last game they played, it was down the stretch. It was, under 100 and they were both around like 95, 93. And he just didn't seem like he was going to take over or wanted to take over.
Yeah, I think part of that is just you saw that with Anthony Davis a couple of games ago. The defense tightens up. They start throwing different things your way. Things change. And you got to remember, Embiid's playing through a lot of stuff right now. So the fact that
it kind of just, at this point, it's, you've blamed it on Markelle Fultz. You blamed it on, Doc Rivers. You blamed it on Tobias Harris. You blamed it on Ben Simmons. At some point, it's got to be you.
You know what? It's a very good take, and it's something that certainly Philly's going to have to evaluate over the offseason. It's just those guys don't grow on trees.
Because if Embiid is, and he was an MVP last season, so if he's let's just say
Become-
top 5 player in a weaker Eastern Conference, and he hasn't seen the Eastern Conference Finals, well, what does that tell you?
I don't disagree with you. It's something they got to look at. Same kind of thing that Phoenix is going to have to look at as well. Condog, thank you so much for the call. All right.
All right, later.
Later, brother. All right. So I want to recap. Good call by Condog. If you're just joining us, 106 joining us live, I love it. You can call the show. You don't have to be on camera. You can go to the QR code that's above my shoulder. Also, as I said before, we can let's put the link again in the chat if you want to join. In fact, let's catch up on the chat right now. Condog, we already got you all dialed in as my screen does not update. Here we go. What's up, Finchy? Those numbers could be slightly awkward because the Kings had more wins than losses. True. That could be, John. It's a good grain of salt to bring to the conversation. Do you follow J. Rue? What do you think he is referring to? Daniel, you got to fill me in on J. Rue. I'm not sure who that is. Hey, I told you we're doing the Rideos for the first time. We're going to do them every Monday, and we're going to spin the wheel, and whatever comes up, I'm going to tell you it's something from this weekend or maybe a little bit before this weekend. Maybe it's new to me. First time I saw it. Whatever it lands on, I am going to give you my dope Condog thoughts on. Let's get to this really quick. Thoughts on Tobias Harris to the Kings. I don't know. It depends what Tobias Harris you're getting. And quite frankly, depending on the number, I think there could be better options out there. For the Kings to go all in, yeah, I know he's a free agent this year, but it depends on the number. Again, Jerry is with me on this. He thinks, like I do, that Klay Thompson and Malik Monk, in some ways, their free agency is going to be tied together this summer. Their numbers could help dictate each other's, which is kind of different. But getting back to the Rideos, it is time to spin the wheel and let you know the first dope that I saw this weekend. Here we go. Oh, let's see. Where did we land? We're still moving. Why are we still moving? Oh, we're going to spin again. Here we go. Where are we stopping? Selfie etiquette, everyone. All right, here we go. Selfie etiquette. I love the opportunity that I get to meet anybody. I'm so grateful for anyone that watches this programming, King's Court. If you don't like that, anybody that's willing up to come say hi to me, I am all for it. We can talk basketball. We can talk whatever. But there's boundaries. There's boundaries. This doesn't happen often, but something weird happened this weekend. So there's boundaries to it. Like, I'm going to give you 2 examples. I walked into a store. Somebody was shy because they recognized me. And the first question was, do you watch Grant Napier? I said, I work with him. And that started the conversation. That's fine. He knew. Okay. But this one was a little weird. My family and I were out having dinner, and this guy just keeps walking by the table that works at the establishment. And I'm like, what's going on? Right. And because it wasn't like, walking by, everything okay, the manager dropping the napkin at the table. It was just kind of the weird walk bys, the looks. I'm like, okay, maybe he thinks my wife's cute. I don't know. Do I got a booger in my nose? Maybe he's not even looking at us, whatever. Right. Well, I get up to use the restroom, and it's a fairly small restroom, I would say, not very big. The dude follows me in the restroom. And anyways, you know how sometimes you can see through the stall, right? There's that little crack between the door and the wall. Well, you can kind of see, and he's not anywhere near where the toilet is in the stall. And then the next thing you know, the phone comes over the top of the stall, and it's, what's up? It's Ryan in Sacktown. And he's got me live on something. I don't know if it was TikTok. I don't know what. I mean, I wasn't in a compromised position, but for heaven's sakes, it's the bathroom. What are we doing here? Any place but the bathroom. I mean, it's already an awkward thing when you're in the bathroom. Do you say hi? Do you not say hi? Do you try to avoid eye contact? You get what I'm saying? But dude, don't be taking pictures of me in the bathroom. And I guess maybe he didn't want to take a picture because of, yeah, I know. You think it's funny, right? You think it's funny. Maybe he was being sensitive because my son was there. But then I had to eat my meal and watch this guy go around and talk to his friends. And okay, so a Ry-Doh is selfie etiquette. Selfie etiquette. I would love to take a picture with you. I'd love to talk Kings basketball with you. I'd love to do any of that stuff, just not in the bathroom. All right, that's our first Ry-Doh. We'll ring the bell or spin the bell again, or the wheel here in a little bit. I'm glad you guys are getting a kick out of that. You're dying laughing. Yeah, well, it's true. I can't make this stuff up. It really happened. So, Flores, what's up, man? What's the Kings' identity on offense? Your guess is as good as mine. I mean, 3-pointers right now. You know, the stat that I left out, and Finch brings up a good point. So we'll go by possession. You know what, Finchy? I'm going to follow up on that stat, and I'm going to do it by possession. That'll give me some better splits. But the stat is still disturbing, whether that's offset on wins or not. That still should not be in that name. It should be significantly different. Let's just put it that way. Their wins weren't that much better. I mean, when did the Kings really blow teams out that many times this season and led wire to wire? Not too many times. Flores. So the Kings' identity on offense, I don't know. I want to say a motion offense. I want to say a free-flowing offense. But if the three ball is in there as their identity, or Flores, you've got to also, you got to put inconsistency. It's an inconsistent 3-point shooting offense. I harped on this the first half of the season. For about 2/3 of the season, the Kings were 4th in the NBA at 2-point percentage. 4th in the NBA, yet they were 27th in the NBA in 2-point attempts. So you're capable, you just don't shoot them. I mean, they were shooting like 56.1%, I want to say, but they finished this season 2-pointers 18th in the league, and then attempts 25th in the league. What the hell happened? And you can't say that the 3-ball is not tied to that, because it absolutely is. And I don't want to put this all on the shoulders of De'Aaron Fox, because that's not fair. But if we look at anybody on this Kings roster, really plays significant minutes, he's the one that holds the key to guys getting to the cup, him getting to the cup, the Kings getting into the penalty, you know? So, let's get to this one. What's up, Dre? Happy Monday to you, dude. Let's talk about this for a second. Anthony Edwards is the MVP of the playoffs so far, averaging 31 points, 8 and 6 assists. Yeah, pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. Yeah, I've got some audio about the Suns here in a little bit, but Anthony Davis is the real deal. I'm already on record saying that he is the freakiest athlete I've ever seen in my life. I mean, Romy was joking around earlier today about the dunk that Edwards had last night, and he said that he almost hit his head on the scoreboard. He's got to watch out for the scoreboard. It's true. And I would say, and you guys are going to kill me for this, you're going to kill me for this, only in style, not mentality, and it's more explosive. I feel like Ant is like this mix between like a Vince Carter and a Kobe Bryant. I say Kobe Bryant, he's not as cerebral or as great as Kobe, obviously, not yet at least, but the way he plays the game, the fundamentals of his game. Have you guys seen that clip where he pivots like 3 times in the lane? I know that it should have been obviously a 3-second call, takes more than 3 seconds to pivot 3 times usually. Anyways, but still, that type of footwork, that's what you used to see from the greats, Jordan, Kobe, that mid-range footwork special, and he's got it. And man, I just think Minnesota knew something we did not know. And by the way, how about Chris Finch? Chris Finch, did you guys see? Tore his patella tendon in his knee. He got hit by one of his guys. But he'll take it. It's still a sweep over the Suns, but Minnesota re-signing or, going with the too big idea in a league that was moving and still is moving towards more perimeter play. Minnesota either knew something about Anthony Edwards that we didn't, or they hit the nail on the head. They got a big lottery ticket there. So, yeah, he is special. Speaking of the Suns, it brings up a really interesting situation for them. If you remember, when their new owner came in, he immediately shook things up. And I mean, really shook things up. He came, got Kevin Durant at the trade deadline. Nobody saw that coming. Goes out, gets Bradley Beal in the offseason, and it's failed. It's absolutely failed. So what's next for them? I don't think what it shows you, and I've been a big proponent of this all season, especially with Stockton and Sacramento in collaboration. It shows you that the development of players is so much more important than loading your team up and trying to buy a championship. You might be able to do it here and there. You can be an albatross and do it for a year. I mean, Boston has kind of found a way to do it. Bobby Marks has talked about that on the record. But those days are gone. They're flat out gone. So developing talent is at a premium in this league. And Minnesota with Anthony Edwards is doing an excellent job of it. But getting back to Phoenix, look, they don't have talent to develop. Kevin Durant set in his ways for the most part. Beal set in his ways for the most part. Then you've got Devin Booker. I would argue Devin is still at his best when he's on the court and he's able to stay healthy. But are you willing to throw the dice out there and do another year of that with the new CBA? Also, a little bit under fire is Frank Vogel. Not a little bit, a lot. Frank Vogel, he's a loud coach sometimes. Sometimes he's out of touch, in my opinion, with the players. Not as much of a player's coach. So, yeah. Here's a clip from Locked On Suns talking about the situation.
Basically, the bottom line here is, according to Shams Charania in a piece at The Athletic, as well as Adrian Wojnarowski over the weekend on ESPN's studio show, the Suns are thinking about moving on from Frank Vogel. I'll read the biggest snippet, I would say, the intro of the piece at The Athletic. I believe you have not heard this, and it maybe some fans are hearing this for the first time. I know The Athletic is paywalled here. So here's the snippet, all right? Zoom in on that loss to the Clippers April 9th. They go down 35-4. They go down 53-16, 66-33 at halftime. And it says, quote, the head coach yelled so much that his voice could be heard outside the locker room. There was only one problem. On this night, Suns players weren't buying it. The outburst seemed forced and out of character in their eyes. It continued at the next day's shoot-around in Los Angeles, with Vogel tearing into the Suns before that night's road win over the Clippers. Vogel's eruption left players rolling their eyes, sources briefed on the matter told The Athletic. One player even told The Athletic he had to keep from laughing.
That's not good. If you have to keep from laughing from your coach, it's not going to work. So whether it's a system thing, it's a player thing, Shams and Woj have suggested whether Vogel gets fired, whether they bring in different assistants, shake up the system. I think you got to keep your eye on Phoenix. You really do. And here's why. It's because they might unload. Could the Kings do anything there? Could the Kings be in play? It's a great question. Now, we're going to get back to the Suns conversation. Normally, I don't intro guests, but I'm going to intro this guest because he's actually on the wheel, I think. He's on the Rideos. So I was doing some laundry this week. And by the way, that is on the wheel as well. Maybe that will come up And you know how sometimes you go down the YouTube rabbit hole? Well, that was going on, and it was on autoplay, and so it was suggested things, and then this popped up.
Ramp meters, yeah.
Right. I think that is the most absurd, ridiculous, most absolute asinine thing I've ever seen in all my years of driving a motor vehicle.
Well, it helps with the traffic flow. So it's not
It does not help with the traffic flow. That's the problem with civil engineers. It doesn't. It messes up the traffic flow.
No, studies have shown that the RAM meters.
The studies are wrong.
I can get you the info if you need it.
Can't make this stuff up, man. Oh my god.
What's wrong with you over there?
Oh, dude.
So, without further delay, we bring in the I had no idea this guy was a civil engineer. Zach, be a guru, man. Would you care to explain yourself?
Oh man, I can't believe you ran into that. How did that sound when you first heard it?
I didn't know why it was on YouTube. I'm like, who did this? Because it says NBA guru Zach, and I'm like, okay, he's got some gloss behind his name, but man, you took some there.
Yeah, it was that was pretty much my intro to being NBA guru right there. I called in a few days in a row saying NBA guru Zach here. Said my question or my thoughts, and then all of a sudden, that third day, he just lost it. Just absolutely lost it. He did not like me calling myself NBA guru for the third day in a row. Doug Christie was getting a kick out of it. He found out I'm a civil engineer. Then he got into his rant meters, and that's probably one of his most famous rants he's done in his career. I think he absolutely hates them, and so I was the perfect person to pick on for getting more info or at least ranting at me for him.
It was pretty good. Grant rarely does that. Hold up. Let me ask you a question. As soon as I heard that, I was like, this is not going to go well for Zach, especially if he's not expecting it. What's up, dude? Happy Monday. Welcome to the King's Court. What's going on?
Man, just a lot of good NBA over the weekend. Just wanted to come in, just say what's up. And, it was cool to see Brunson go off yesterday. Cool to see Anthony Edwards go off yesterday. Man. And now you're bringing up Frank Vogel. Just a lot of good NBA stories around. Yeah. I mean, what's your thoughts on Frank Vogel? Because he's had an interesting career. He had he had Indiana. He was actually a pretty good coach in Indiana. I thought he did pretty good there. And then he went to Orlando, and I think he wasn't good. And I think that was more the players he had, to be honest. And then he came to LA. He got him a shit. Things turned around after a little bit there. And then he came to Phoenix. Do you think it's more of his coaching, or do you think more of it's like players?
I think it's been a little bit of a perfect storm. It's a great question for Jerry. We'll ask him next time he's on, because I'm sure he knows about Frank, probably very familiar with the building. I think that he took jobs where he was dealing with personalities that probably don't mesh well with his system. You heard what they were reporting there on Locked On Suns. You remember that Clippers game? Grant and I were on the air, and we're like, what is going on I think it was in Los Angeles. Like, how is this happening right now? So that was the backstory to that. I just don't think his style meshes with the big personalities. And I don't think and this is just, I am not in touch with the situation. I am not reporting anything. This is just my eyeball. And from what I can tell, I just don't think he knows when to yield, when he should yield.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good assessment. Maybe it's just the players that he has on his team. They just don't mesh with him. And like you said, the big personalities, maybe that's not the move. I guess it worked out for maybe a year in LA with Davis and LeBron. So maybe he got away with that, and it was a weird year, outlier year.
It was a very weird year. Yeah.
So but that's interesting. But the Anthony Edwards stuff, I did like that comparison. You had Vince Carter and Kobe combo. I've been just calling him like MJ. I know that's no, you don't really want to. People don't want to compare him to one of the greats, but he just looks like him too.
It's the old school, dude. He is that old school two guard. that just comes around once every few generations. It feels like he should have that wristband pulled up to right here. I mean, he's got the look, he's got the game, and he's got the head on his shoulders. I the fact that they're excelling right now in the playoffs, it blows my mind. It really does, because I thought Minnesota was going to have some trouble, but I did not expect Anthony Edwards to go off like he has.
Yeah, they're beating their projection. I mean, no one saw this coming. What is he? I think he's only 22. I mean, he's this good at 22.
22.
Oh,
Minnesota, and that's what's scary about the West, Zach.
Mhm.
It's like some of these teams, Condog brought up Oklahoma City. They're going to be here for a little bit. They're not going anywhere, and I know they've got some guys that they're going to have to take care of. There's no doubt SGA will be there long term when the Supermax kicks in. But the Kings got to bolster up, and that's why we go back to what I think is the theme of the offseason: get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Kings, it's just tough. The West is just so tough. So many good teams, and yeah, you gotta make changes if you're gonna try to compete there. You have to make a lot of changes, especially if Monk doesn't resign. You gotta stay in the playoff conversation, because you can't just be a one and done.
No, this is a year, like this year to me, they can't just make up for last year, right? I don't think they took a massive step back, but they certainly didn't move forward. I think they kind of just held neutral, which means they're going to have to be ahead of schedule for this season. And that's why, again, I say the Kings have to be so proactive in this offseason. They've got to have a beat on the pulse of what's going on around the league. And if they can bounce on somebody they like, then you do it. And I think there's some names out there. Isaiah Hartenstein, he's going to be available on the free agent market. I think he could play well with Domas in spots. I think he could play well with the second unit. I think that's kind of one of those guys you could throw in there, Zach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that player. He's very good with the New York Knicks right now. Just very good defensive player. Their defense is just immensely better when he's on the floor.
And his basketball IQ is underrated. Watch him. He understands how to play with Brunson, and Brunson's not the easiest guy to play with. But his timing in the break, and that's when I kind of talked about the transition, free throws, like that being the special teams of basketball. He brings something extra to that, because the Kings, the way they run the break this year, that was a big problem too. The first half of the season, and it got corrected, Domas was running the break way too much, Zach, and Jerry Reynolds thought the spacing was all off because of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because for me at least, I think the main thing they need is another playmaker, someone like I've said before, Rui Hachimura, someone that can make a shot on his own or something like that. It's interesting what kind of piece we can get like that. And I know a lot of people, if they want if we get a center like Isaiah Hartenstein, they're gonna just go back to the Miles Turner days. Like Miles Turner and Sabonis didn't work. Is Isaiah Hartenstein gonna work with someone? That conversation is gonna come up.
No, it certainly will come up, but I think out of the pieces that could be available to the Kings or they could make a run at,
Right.
it's one of the, for the price, it's to me one of the better and more appealing options. I think back, Zach, to the trade deadline, not this last season, but the season before. And if there is one point in this Kings window since they've broken the playoff drought that they shot themselves in the foot, it was that trade deadline.
That's a super good point because, like you said, there was a lot of people on the market like that, Rui Hachimura, and they got him cheap. The Lakers didn't spend that much to get him and D'Lo, so they got lucky. I remember that trade. I was like, how did they just get D'Lo and Rui for pocket pennies on the dollar? And so guys like that were available, and the Kings didn't take advantage. They stayed pat. That's fine. But now it's time to you got to find the deals. So it's going to be tough to see if they can find people like that because those players are hard to find.
They're very, very hard to find. And now the Kings' backs weren't against the wall then. That's a time they could have been proactive. And I think you look at the Lakers, right? The Lakers are not, and you mentioned a couple of the names, they're not where they're at this year without that trade deadline. They saved their season, then they end up going to the Western Conference Finals. So it just hurt because now this season you see those guys that are playing on friendly deals for the most part, and it's like, damn, Like the Kings could have given up something really small, and still done something. But that's in the past. I guess my point being that can't happen in the future. I'm glad you're here. Let's break up the basketball talk. Have you been around yet for the Rideos today?
I saw a little bit. I saw the selfie etiquette, and I still can't believe that happened to you, man. Are you in the bathroom?
Dead serious.
What is happening?
Serious.
That is insane.
Dude, my boy Jordan in the chat, he's like, just wait outside the bathroom, man. And then he follows it up with a good hand wash, too. Exactly. Jordan, you bring up a good point. What do? You can't take it. I'm not touching your phone to take the picture. I'm not putting my arm on you. And then, Zach, what if you come walking in the bathroom and there's two guys taking a selfie next to a urinal cake? It doesn't make any sense, bro.
Oh man, I would have told. I would have probably told the stat or someone. Man, I don't know. That's just too creepy and weird.
Way too much. So I've got a wheel full of things I saw this weekend that I'm like, no. These are Rideos because they were not good things, or they perked my interest to a degree. So we're going back to the wheel, Zach. You are going to be a part of this as well. Let's see what comes up. Here we go.
You had an adventurous weekend.
No. This wheel's so funny. Adults who make baby sounds. Yes, I've been waiting to get to this one. So one of my good friends, Zach, very good friend, for whatever reason, he can't get through a video message without letting out a good... He does all these noises, but they're these unique noises that you can't replicate, and they get stuck in your head, and then you start thinking, is it a baby sound? Is it just a weird grunting? What the hell is it? And then before you know, 5 minutes has passed, and it's like, damn, I could have been doing something, and now I'm just trying to figure out your immaturity. So yes, adults who make baby sounds, unless you are directly playing with a baby, do not make baby sounds. And you adults, no offense, if any of you are watching that like to dress up like babies, that's just as weird. So, anyways,
yeah,
Zach, my friend, any bad things from the weekend from you or for you besides the call that I found?
Man, I'm trying to think. Anything bad? Did anything bad happen? People were pretty nice. Not gonna lie. I was on a hike in the Bay Area and needed a picture. A group asked for a picture. I took it for them, and then I wanted one back, and everyone was pretty good. So I can't think of anything on the spot right now that I'm like, man, what are we doing here? I mean, that bathroom one, I still can't believe it.
Wild,
it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. That was the first
wild.
one too, because that was that landed first, and I'm like, all right, that's the opening one, and that's a pretty big one.
So Zach, Athena and some others are asking. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. Civil Engineer.
All right.
Can you please explain yours and Grant's beef over traffic?
Basically, he's not a fan of the ramp meters. The ramp meters is where you got to wait in a little line where the light is red, and you got to wait in the line for all the people. And it's kind of it's basically you don't want all the cars going on the main freeway all at once. That's what it's trying to do with the ramp meters. He doesn't want to wait. He wants all the cars to go at the same time from each exit and from each on-ramp exit. And that's not how it works. So he's not a fan because you got to be waiting. I get it. It's a little bit of time, but you just kind of think of like a sand in like one of those wine bottles. If you're putting all the sand in the wine bottle all at the same time, it's going to get stuck. But if you slowly put the sand in the wine bottle, then you'll have a good flow of rate flow of all the cars going in, or in this case, sand.
But Zach, I kind of got to take Napes' point here. If you just drive your car, there's no issue. There's no traffic if you just drive your car.
I mean, I'm just saying, if all the cars are going on the exit, all at each one, and all the cars are going, there's no stop. It's probably going to get clogged. There's probably going to be bottlenecks. That's just what the studies have shown. I'm just telling you what the studies have shown.
That's what the studies have shown. So I actually, to be fair to you, I don't know if you listened to the recorded King's Court today, but I did play a little bit of that as well. So I had to kind of get it in, but I assumed you're a civil engineer. Did you go to Cal Poly?
No, but that's a great school for it. That's a great school for it. I
All right.
went. I was a local guy. I went to Davis.
Davis. Okay. An
Mhm.
Aggie. You know about the
Mhm.
wikis out there? I know about the wikis.
Wikis. That
You
seems
never had a
familiar.
wiki in Davis?
Is that the drink or something?
Yeah. It's that drink where they mark your hand because you can
Mhm.
only have 2 of them.
Oh,
And
okay.
they put, I think what's the liquor? And I don't drink anymore, but
Mhm.
what's the one that
I,
lights
I,
on fire? 151.
uh-huh.
151.
I know there's like a little thing where you have to have 3 drinks from 3 different places at Davis and the downtown, and then you complete like a challenge or whatnot. That might be one of them. Yeah.
All right, Zach. Zach, you've opened Pandora's box.
Oh God.
So Athena, I went to court twice for the carpool lane violations, and they said bye. Oh, okay. They dismissed them. All right. By the way, nobody's figured it out why it's the King's Court. There's a crossover there. I'm waiting for you guys to figure that out. But I told the officer it was against my. Oh, Athena. I am all for civil rights, all for them. But sometimes, and I'm not saying you're this person, I've seen those YouTube videos where it's the amendment people, where it's like I'm traveling. Could you imagine being an officer? Like that would not be fun. That's like that skit, like who's on first, right, Zach?
Yeah. For this Athena, I don't really have a comment for it. That's the court stuff. That's law stuff. All you gotta know is I'm pro rant meters, and
Pro ramp meters. I'm giving Zach a platform to be pro ramp meters. This is where his mayoral run begins on the King's Court.
so I'll just stay on that lane, and no pun intended.
No pun intended. All right, Zach. Well, I got you here. We got to roll the wheel one more time. All right, we're going back to the Rideos. See, they're kind of funny. I'm trying to mix it up, but these are all real things. So some of them bleed into the weekend before.
Okay.
But since it's of course, Athena, of course, that's what this is for, y'all. Saying thanks to Zach too. Yeah, good dude. Zach and I may have something in the cards coming up. Make sure you're paying attention to that, by the way.
Mhm.
All right, let's spin the wheel. The Ry-Doh. No. We didn't stop on anything. What are we doing? Come on, let's go, wheel.
It's trying to do some suspense. It's doing some suspense.
No. Come on. Come on now. Give me something.
Oh,
We got an adult who made a baby. How is that possible?
Respin.
People are gonna think this is rigged on the King's Court. It's not. All right. What's it gonna be?
Big money.
Big money. Roll, Circus, Tide, roll. So I was doing a catch up, Zach, you know. Oh, John's coming. Zach, you know, I have a feeling the title of this episode is going to be ramp meters. But so Zach, you know, I was doing a catch up. There's certain YouTube things that we watch because I have a 9-year-old, so I'll do the YouTube Kids thing and whatnot. But there was a crossover. There was this story that kind of came up on his feed, but was also on our feed. And it takes us to Montana, my man. And if there's not, this may be one of the sketchier places to be, especially to pay money to be, the Circus. Zach, have you ever been to the Circus, dude?
You know, I have never been to a circus. Is that crazy? Is that weird?
You know, I just don't. No, it's not weird. You're normal. It's kind of one of those things. Like, I don't like clowns. Okay, I don't
I'm not
like
a fan
clowns. They just creep me out for whatever reason. The scary clowns don't creep me out as much as like the nice, happy looking clowns. Those ones I can't do. So you've already got the clown element hanging over your head, right? But then you've got the wild animal element. Usually, like circuses will have tigers, lions, elephants. They should be trained, right? You would think.
I think,
well,
yeah.
Well, the circus was in Montana, not this weekend, Zach, but the weekend before, my friend. And this is what ensued.
And for residents of Butte, Montana Tuesday, like Matea Smith, who was driving with her husband, an elephant strolling down the street definitely fit the bill.
he was like, oh my gosh, there's an elephant. And I kind of was joking with him and I thought I was in the parking lot. Then he was like, no, there's an elephant. So I looked up and I was like, oh, there is an elephant in the road.
In Montana.
The manager of the Civic Center, where the Jordan World Circus was staging, confirming to NBC affiliate KECI, the giant animal apparently got spooked by the sound of a truck backfiring during a bath and bolted.
So
All right. Can we stop there? If you have to have a dog on a leash, why the hell isn't an elephant on a leash if you're giving it a bath? And by the way, isn't the circus, Zach, someplace you're supposed to take your kids? The elephants aren't secured. We're not taking care of the elephants. And by the way, who gives an elephant a bath in a parking lot in Montana? I mean, what are we talking about here? I could go in on, yeah, here we go. Yeah, because Haunted Horse makes it better all the time. Elephant. We're getting some Jim Rome crossover now. His personal appearance, okay, here. I guess I'll let it fly. But, dude, the circus, it's extinct. They've got to be doing things perfectly to get people to go to circuses. And having elephants running free on Main Street in Montana is not it, Zach.
That's not that just scares me. That's reminding me of like Elephants on the Loose. That might be one of the next movies they have with that bear. That was that bear movie that came out last year. Cocaine Bear might be Cocaine Elephant.
Cocaine elephant. Yeah, we are not supporting any type of drug use, but it is a movie. Who knows? I mean, again, I just how do you not have Zach? You're a civil engineer. For stormwater, you have to have secondary containment in construction zones. There's no secondary containment for 1,000-pound animals? I don't get it.
It should be. You would think it'd be pretty easy to know where a 1,000-ton elephant is at all times. You would think.
You would think. And how do you get a 1,000-pound elephant to come back to you? What would be appealing to you if you were an elephant who was always locked up or performing it? Does the elephant get NIL, name likeness, or name image likeness? His pictures are probably on the programs. Why isn't he getting paid an extra bananas or something? He's a disgruntled employee. He went for his chance to get out, and then how do you get him back? I mean, what do you do?
I don't know about that one. I need to go to a zoo or something and ask him about this.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's a problem, y'all. It's a problem. Yeah, and see, Haunted Horse, do me a favor, dude. Why don't you go around the King's Court? Why don't you go and high-five the 10 idiots that thought a Delephant was fun? I mean, who is this Haunted Horse guy? Now he's taking laps around the King's Court, looking for love for his Delephant take. Oh, and he's following up with more. How do you stop an elephant from charging? Take away its... Good job, Haunted Horse. Good job. You know what? I have your paper full of jokes here. We're going to get rid of it. All right. It is gone. Haunted Horse.
That's the elephant in the room right there.
Yes, he is. He's going to close it. Zach, you got a couple minutes to hang around?
Sure.
So did you catch, I'm going to start a take really quick, but did you guys catch what's going on in New York with New York and Philadelphia? It's been a throwback to me of 1990s basketball. It's the old Heat Knicks days where you got players flipping over players' backs. You've got coaches hanging on to legs. It's 97, 92 defensive basketball the way it should be. And you're talking about two fan bases that are very, very passionate about their teams. So much so, Zach, that the New York Knicks fans began chanting FMB at MSG. They began doing that. 90s trench warfare. Exactly, Matthew. It's beautiful basketball. I love it. But they started chanting F Embiid. For those unaware, Embiid, it was a dirty play. I'm not going to say he's a dirty player, but it was a dirty play. He held on to, I believe it was Duncan Robinson, right, Zach?
Was it Isaiah Harkin or Mitch Robinson or something?
So, anyways, he held on to a leg, guy that already had an ankle knee injury. And so the New York Knicks fans didn't take kindly to that, as you could imagine. And by the way, the Garden is freaking rocking this offseason. I wish I could go see a game there. So the Knicks and the 76ers met this weekend. And New York Knicks fan Patrick, if you are here, I want to hear from you all the way from Long Island. But dude, you and your boys went into the Wells Fargo Center and literally took over the arena and took over the concourse, chanting F Embiid, F the Sixers, yada, yada, yada. So much so, Zach, that after the game, Embiid was asked about it. And then we're going to do a little catch up, some takes from the Inside the NBA cruise. Here's Joel Embiid after the game.
I think it's unfortunate, and I'm not calling them out, but it is disappointing. It kind of pisses me off, especially because Philly is considered a sports town. So, they've always shown up, and I don't think that should happen.
Sounded like Chuck.
Well, people don't know.
Stop it.
Listen, tell me. People don't know when they list their tickets to be sold that they're going to be bought by Knicks fans. They just trying to sell their tickets because
Yeah,
they
but
can't
most
go.
of the
Please
tickets
check the box for team allegiance.
but most of the tickets are sold out. Somebody had to sell
No,
those
they're selling their tickets because it's a playoff
that's
game
my
against
point.
the Knicks.
Yeah, but that's my point.
Good
Go ahead,
seats.
Chad.
Yeah, but it's your job as a player, especially if you're home, to make sure the home fans are in it. Make sure that the fans that are not rooting for you, make sure they sit down and shut up.
Yeah, I understand.
Zach, I'm not sure if there's much outside of blowing out the Knicks that 76er fan or 76ers could have done to combat that. But we're talking about Philly fans, Zach. How does that happen?
I'll say this. I think New York Knicks fans are one of the best traveled fans in the NBA. I was at the Knicks game versus the Kings, and we were hearing, and I think they did this over the weekend too, MVP chants for Jalen Brunson. I mean, they are vocal. You know where they're at in the stadium. You can point them out. So they're good fans. They're loyal fans, and they'll go around and travel to follow them.
Yeah, they travel well. They are loyal fans. And you know what? I don't mind it, Sixer fan. Is it nice to get a taste of your own medicine? May I remind you? I know you guys didn't do it specifically, Sixer fan, but you are still Philadelphia fan. Y'all booed Santa. Do you guys remember that? They booed Santa. Oh, another thing. Why did they have to stop doing Dollar Dog and Dollar Beer Day? Because you wouldn't keep them off the field. All you were doing was throwing Polish dogs everywhere. You guys ruined everything. What did you throw, a battery at Shawn Michaels during WrestleMania in the 2000s? You guys are habitual offenders. So welcome to getting a taste of your own medicine. Do better. Do better. Now, Haunted Horse is back for more. He's done with his victory lap. Here we go. They booed. Oh, my screen is a little bit high. Let's see. They booed a lifetime of Michael Irvin laying motionless on the field. Yes. Okay. Haunted Horse making it a little bit better. I mean, how rich is it? How rich is it that Philly fan, Zach, of all fans, is complaining that New York fan took over?
Yeah, Philly fans are the most notorious for being a little inappropriate, loud, obnoxious, and now they're telling the Knicks fans don't do that. They have no right. They have no say to do any of that. They've been in a lot of big controversies with even I remember Bill Burr was doing a stand-up and they were booing him for 10 minutes straight.
Exactly.
So they boo comedians. They boo their sports players. They just don't like having fun. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, they shouldn't be talking like that about the Knicks fans. They that's a little hypocritical if you ask me.
Yeah, and I get Embiid. You're right. Embiid, he's played his tail off this offseason. And don't get me started on Giannis. Giannis, I've got something for you, dude, because you are slowly approaching Kawhi Leonard and Joel Embiid territory with your playoff availability.
Mm-hmm.
For those not checking in or tracking that series, Indiana commanding lead 3-1 right now in that one. And it's likely not headed back to Indiana. I think it'll get finished in Milwaukee because Dame and Giannis, as of right now, are not looking good to play. Is another head going to roll in Milwaukee for this?
I don't
Doc
know.
Rivers, remember, he was supposed to make things better, Zach.
Yeah, that was I didn't agree with that firing, and they're paying for it a little bit, but it's also unlucky. Giannis getting hurt. It is I don't know how many. What is this? The third playoff? Maybe fourth? I don't. It's around that time where he's just missing a lot of playoff games, and he's letting his team down. It's just unlucky because Damian got hurt too. So and Chris Middleton, I'm sure he's not 100% healthy. I don't know. It's a little bit of unluckiness and him getting hurt at the wrong time. I don't know what's going on. This Giannis, if you look at him, he looks like he's a Greek god looking guy, and he shouldn't. I don't know what's stopping him from playing, but hopefully he comes back on the court soon.
The miscalculation that they made this offseason when they went and got Dame, and I was a fan of Dame going there. I wasn't a fan of them getting Dame, if that makes sense. I thought the situation would be good for Dame, but they miscalculated how much of the weight would then go back on Giannis, because you look at Drew Holiday, he was kind of everything for that team, and their whole identity changed when he was traded to Boston. You lost defense. You lost that 50-50 guy. And so with Lillard, I mean, at times he's been great, and at times he's really struggled. It's put more of that pressure back on Giannis. And I think that was kind of the goal, was to get some of that pressure off of him. But he's had trouble staying healthy. If he goes through another postseason, or he misses any significant time next year, Zach, I don't know. I mean, he's right there with those guys. You kind of have to put him in that category.
Yeah. If he misses one more big time playoff series, that'd be horrible to his reputation, honestly, because he should be.
It's not just his reputation; it's the franchise too.
Yeah, there's a lot at stake right now, and they were supposed to be in the Eastern Conference Finals with Boston. That was the whole plan.
Yes.
And people were flipping coins on who's going to be going to the finals between them, and now they're going to be a first round exit. They might not win more than one game, so it's an absolute failure of a season. And there's a lot of pressure this summer, honestly, because their coach has question marks. Their perimeter defense with Damian at the point guard and not great defensive people on shooting guard, that's going to be questionable. And like you said, Giannis's playoff coming in, is he going to be able to play? And just like Embiid, they just get hurt at the wrong times, or it just doesn't look good. I know it's just unlucky with health, and they get hurt at the end of the season, stuff like that. But it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely unfortunate. It's something you got to watch. That got rid of their coach, very good coach. When Giannis got hurt and they got bounced from the playoffs, the Heat ended up going to the finals from the play-in that year after beating Milwaukee. But they're going to be on a short lease, especially with that payroll and this new CBA. Wanzo, what is up, man? Haven't seen you in here. Happy to have you here. Dame is a liability defensively. Zach, is the Dame era ending soon?
Man, it can't be a one and done. I think they're going to have to run it back again. He doesn't have a lot of value. So, I mean, he has a value, but, they don't want to be losing value on the trade. So they're going to probably run it back one more year, probably with everyone the same. And I think that's going to be one of the final years with all these guys, because after that, just like you said, they got short leashes on everyone. And I just like Budenholzer, they let go of him very quick. I did not like that firing at all.
Move.
One of the best coaches in the league. He was a coach of the year winner. Did not like that. So we'll see. I think they need some extra pieces for like defensively, but just in general, Damian is not as good as he was before, obviously. And so another year older, we'll see.
Well, and they knew, you got to know to a degree, you're not getting, playoff Dame Lillard. You're still getting Dame Lillard. He's still going to be cerebral, but he's just not going to be as effective. I think he can still be effective in the league, but not as a star two-guard, star point guard. Hey, Zach, thank you so much for hanging with us and staying longer. And, dude, you were a hit. Thank you for explaining the on-ramps. Maybe we can schedule a debate with you and Grant. We can revisit that sometime in the near future.
That'd be insane. That'll be that'd be an all-time debate. That's like a presidential debate right there for rant meters.
Yes, rant meters indeed. Zach, my brother, have
Appreciate
a
it.
great day. Appreciate you being here.
Take care, Ryno. Thanks.
Definitely. That is Zach, the NBA guru. You know, we don't gloss people around here. He glossed himself, but we're going to let it fly. Pay attention to what's in the future. Zach and I may have a project coming up, which I think all will like. And then also, we have got a ton of things headed to you with the King's Court. We've got some specials. We're going to have some, remember we've done our, I don't call them interrogations. I call them more of testimonies, but we've had, let's see, Damon Bruce. We've had, we did that one on If You Don't Like That with Larry Krueger. But we have some other big ones. Jerry Reynolds was here last week. Jerry keeps stopping by a few now and again, maybe once a week. Jerry will be here, which is so special. I love having him here and getting to have an extended conversation, not just about hoops, but also about what Jerry wants to talk about. That is really cool because he is a treasure here in Sacramento. He's an absolute basketball treasure, and he's even a better person. You know, you've heard me say that a million times. So pay attention to the King's Court, and thank all of you for being here. We've got 194 live on X and YouTube, mostly X. You can send me your comments. If you don't know, it is a Ry-Doh Monday, which is we spin the Ry-Doh wheel, and it's the things that, you know, maybe I didn't really like over the weekend or something that I thought needed to be addressed. So far, we've talked about adults who talk like babies. That one's been covered nice and well. We've talked about selfie etiquette. That's really important. Make sure you go back and watch that if you missed it. We've talked about elephants on the loose in Montana and the problem with the circus. What do you say? Go back one more time to the Ry-Doh wheel and the show this way. Here we go. What's going to be the last Ry-Doh of this Monday edition live of the King's Court? Here we go. Spin wheel. I gotta find a new wheel. Maybe I'll get a real wheel. Please be Tony Khan. Please be Tony Khan. Please be Tony Khan. Oh! LeBron James's temper tantrum. And you know what? It was warranted too. I'll tell you why in a second. For those that missed it, the last game between the Lakers and the Nuggets, the one where the Nuggets finally lost a game to the Lakers. Well, they're headed back to Denver. They play tonight. Will the series head back to Los Angeles? We'll see. That Lakers team looking really, really, I don't want to say tired, but they're showing their age. They are. Anthony Davis beat up, dealing with that wrist injury. LeBron's just not himself, but I'll tell you what, he was in classic form that game. He thought there was a play that should have been challenged. He didn't think the ball was off of him. And again, the audio doesn't really do it much justice, but I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about. Here was LeBron, courtesy of ABC ESPN.
He's saying it was touched last by Denver. Darvin Ham not going to challenge it, though. And LeBron.
Hold on. That was LeBron James. Those were his feet hitting the ground because he jumped like a baby. He jumped like a baby and threw a tantrum. Going back.
Really infuriated. He is screaming at his bench right now. And wow. He compounded the problem by not paying attention, and then Denver got the easy basket. And Jamal.
So let me finish that out for you. What happens is the play is not challenged. The entire Lakers unit that's on the floor, including LeBron, they're not even paying attention to what's going on in the game. Let's play it one more. Yeah, LeBag. Let's play it one more time.
And LeBron really infuriated. He is screaming at his bench right now. And he compounded the problem by not paying attention, and then Denver got the easy basket.
So we know there has been a problem all season long with officiating in the NBA. Yes, the officials are going to be inconsistent. Well, guess what? The guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster. It's a much harder game to call. And guess what? It's a game that has way more eyeballs on it than ever before. Here's why. Gambling. There's prop bets everywhere. There's probably props on challenges. There's people that don't watch basketball that gamble on basketball. I'm not going to say any names, okay? Jake, we're going to get to that really quick. So I'm not going to say any names. By the way, we're at 194 live. Tell your friends. Let's say 200 again. I would love that. I love that all of you are choosing to be here on the live edition of the King's Court. There's other places you could be or choose for your programming. I love that you're here with us on If You Don't Like That. And huge thanks to Napes. Him and I will be back tomorrow for having me on this platform. And by the way, I want to make sure this is clear. You still get a recorded King's Court every morning, and I'll post the audio of this to the King's Court as well. But we are going to be live Monday through Friday right here on If You Don't Like That. We're not going to get you ready for your drive. We're not going to be your drive home. We're going to get you ready for the drive home. So we love having you here. Thank you so much, John. Glad you liked the wheel. So getting back to what I was saying about the officials and some of the problems. Hell, we know this all too well here in Sacramento. The Kings were in the 2-minute report 3 times in the last 6 games. You could make an argument, and it's not a very good argument, but you still could, that the referees cost the Kings, or at least cost them the chance of being in a 7-game series. Now, I won't accept that argument personally, because the Kings blew far too many games that they should have won. We know the numbers. We know the stats. So that's out the window. Now, it's still a problem that needs to be addressed. So getting back to the LeBron thing, right? You've got him blatantly calling for a challenge. The Lakers think there's going to be a challenge, yet there is no challenge. The referees are right there. How do the referees make that kind of mistake? I don't get it. You literally are being told, we are using a challenge. Challenge the play. Yet they just shrugged LeBron off. I don't understand it. Is that going to show up in the 2-minute report? Clearly, he wanted a challenge and it was ignored. That is another mistake by the officials. I don't get it. And it was so bad, too, because LeBron's team wasn't even prepared for defense in a 4 or 5 possession game where they're looking to stretch the lead out. You just give up a free open basket in the playoffs? No. So that's on the referees. You absolutely have to listen. When a coach says challenge the play, you have to challenge the play. And LeBron clearly said challenge the play. Now, getting back to replay, let's talk about that for a second. There's 2 things that the NBA need to address. What's up, Dave? Bennett's indeed, my brother. That sounds good, by the way. 2 things that need addressed. The first that you need to address if you're the NBA, because you have 2 well, it's kind of on the refs. You know, I think Coach LeBron made it pretty clear that he wanted the play challenge, and the referees ignored the Lakers head coach. I mean, LeBron just straight up said, I want a challenge, and they ignored it. Who ignores a coach? I mean, LeBron is the coach of the Lakers, right? Anyone? LeBron's the coach, right? Do I have that wrong? I thought LeBron was the coach. He's a player coach, like Bill Russell? Anybody? Crickets? No? Oh, so the refs didn't make a mistake. Oh, so, well, who's the Lakers' lead assistant? It's some ham guy, right? No, because LeBron's the coach of that team, I thought. Am I wrong? Anyways, getting back to things. Yeah, I'm putting down the Lakers, and I'm putting down their situation with the coaching. By the way, that's LeBron does not respect his head coach. That is the point of the take. LeBron James and Darvin Ham could not be further apart. And guess what? It looks like most of that roster is on Team LeBron. You've got a split roster. Maybe Darvin has somebody at the end of the bench that listens. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the assistant coaches aren't even listening. LeBron James is the coach of the Lakers, by the way. That is why the refs missed the challenge. So, anyways, getting back to the point with the referees. You guys know I was in Stockton a lot of this season, and it's not just looking at the Kings. It's not just reporting on what I'm seeing. It's also talking to people close to the game. I commonly talk to the referees. John knows that. You know what? I don't think I talked to a ref that night, John, but usually I chat up the refs, and there is a younger generation. There is a much younger generation of referees coming up. And they're not going to be here immediately in the NBA, but they are going to be here pretty soon, sooner than you all think. A lot of those names that you recognize, they're not going to be around much longer. Or, I mean, I don't know. If you can outrun Charles Barkley, maybe you could still be on there. Or if you can run the court without falling down, because there's nobody that wants to be a referee. Raise your hand right now if you are listening and you would want to be a referee. Not only are you have an incredibly difficult job, you are also traveling nonstop and away from your family. Oh, and by the way, with gambling now, it's much easier to find anybody you want to find on the internet. Do you guys see what happens when college football coaches, or I shouldn't even say coaches, when college football players miss a field goal in a close game? Do you see what happens to them? And I'm going to call me a hypocrite. I'm going to call them student athletes, because this goes back to before NIL, way before NIL. Okay. Here's the deal. You harass, you bully, and I'm not saying any of you, because we don't have bullies in the King's Court. You guys clean out and kick out bullies. I see it in the chat all the time. But players that are not, it's not their profession. You are not a professional player. Now, you could argue now with NIL, you are not necessarily just a student athlete. So that has changed. So there's already a track record. There is a history of fans going after people with no hesitancy, and many times stuff that would make you want to go into hiding. So you get to do all that as an official coming up in the NBA. Well, here's the big problem, and I'm going to point you back to one instance earlier this season. The big problem is the current referees, they have been trained in the old school way of refereeing. And what I mean by that is before instant replay, there were unspoken rules about refereeing that just happened. If any of you have ever played basketball competitively, you know the rules that I'm talking about. I'm talking about, hey, the guy slapped my arm and made the ball go off my leg, but the ref is still giving us the ball because he didn't call the foul. There's little things like that that happen all the time. Now, go back to this season. Malik Monk clearly shoved out of bounds. Shoved, right? Well, not only was that not reviewable, but the other team challenges the play and says, no, the ball was off Malik Monk. So now you have three officials. You have an arena of 18,000 and change watching that already clearly saw the play, clearly knew it was the wrong call. And now you send your officials to the monitor to basically have a public, what do you want to call it? A public performance evaluation, an opportunity to get their roses. And by roses, I mean boos. You know, it doesn't make sense. So are these new officials that are going to be up and coming in the NBA, how are they going to be trained? That's the question I ask officials every time I see them. I don't ask the question directly. I ask about situations that are within the realm of the question that I would be asking that could happen. And a lot of times it is a conflict. There is no clear direction because many of these unwritten rules about how to referee the game, they're not written. They're unwritten. So it kind of comes, it's a code that you carry with you as a referee. Well, with instant replay, it can't happen anymore. So what's it going to be, NBA? What are you going to do to better train these officials? And let's be clear about this. These officials are pretty damn good. I know the Kings got the short end of the stick most of the season, but these officials that make it to the NBA, pretty damn good. Now, you might argue they're not as good coming up because there's really nobody that wants to do it. If you want to become an official and you know basketball, you probably have a good chance of at least landing in college by the time 5 years is up, coaching or reffing those games. So how are you going to train these officials? Is that part of the game going to be removed? And if you remove that part of the game, does it affect the game? Well, certainly, theoretically, it would affect the game because foul calls would have to go up. Now, how does it affect replay? That's the big question. What can be challenged? What can't be challenged? What I know is if you have instant replay in place, you should not have coaches worried about using challenges early in a game. That is what challenges are for. It's to get it right. Don't forget, a point in the first quarter counts exactly the same as a point in the fourth quarter. So it matters. Now, it might not matter to fans when it comes to what the play actually is. It could be a clear-cut play where it was off the other team or it was a foul, right? Or it wasn't a foul. And clearly the Kings would win the challenge. The Kings could still challenge that and get some backlash. A lot of coaches are getting that backlash. So the onus is on the NBA to fix this problem. And I'm not going to do another take on a problem that kind of piggybacks on this one, which is the players interacting with officials. We saw it all too well in Sacramento. We saw a change in De'Aaron Fox this season. And I'm not going to say it was good. I'm not going to say it's bad. It was just different. De'Aaron interacted with the officials on a different level. And many times it came off as to some complaining, to all distracting. It takes away from what the team's doing. There was too many times this year, and it wasn't just De'Aaron Fox. There's other Kings that are guilty of this, but they don't get back. They're focused. De'Aaron had, I think it was the play-in game. I want to say it was the play-in game, the second against the Pelicans. He had made it absolutely was, now that I'm thinking about it. He made a very bad play offensively. Defensively, he tried to make up for it and tried to do a little flop and didn't get the call. And guess what happens then? The guy goes right by him. Or I think De'Aaron actually got called for a foul in that instance. So either way, that can't happen. Like, the Kings are not good enough to go into games being able to operate in certain gray areas. The Kings either have to operate in the black or the white until this roster improves. So the question at the end of the day, what does the NBA do about the officials, and how do you find qualified officials, and how are you going to train them to ref? That is going to have as big of an impact on anything else that the Kings, or as anything else that the Kings will do to change the roster this offseason, because the end of the season success that we saw from the Kings was playing one style, and that was a physical brand. Arguably, the refs let the Kings play a little bit too much. They let the guys play, and you saw games at points get out of hand, and the refs got to try to get the game back in hand, and that's the problem. Referees should never come into a game with a game plan. You should be prepared for the game. You should know the little targets, the little things you should be looking for, and the points of interest and emphasis. But you shouldn't have a game plan like, hey, we should let them play tonight, right? It should never get to a point where it's like, okay, we're going to let them play, and then it gets out of control, oh, we need to take the game back. You know why? Because then the officials are affecting the game. Hey, I appreciate you guys being here. We have 208. We are over the 200 mark live on the King's Court. We're going to get ready to wrap up. We've been doing the Ry-Dohs all day. We're going to do one more and get you out the door on a Monday. We will be back live tomorrow at 2 o'clock. May have a cool little guest for you. We'll see. We'll be taking your calls. We'll have a whole nother set of content and some new segments. But back to the Ry-Dohs. It is time to spin the wheel again. The last wheel. What is the last Ry-Doh gonna be? Please be Tony Khan. Please be Tony Khan. Please be Tony Khan. Please be Tony Khan. My buddy, Tony Khan. If you haven't been keeping up with the King's Court, Tony Khan had a busy weekend between the NFL draft, forwarding wrestling storylines in the NFL draft, then invoking Vince McMahon's name. If you listen to the King's Court Saturday, you got my take on that. Tony, if anybody, and I am talking on a business level, business, nothing personal, there are heinous and disgusting allegations against the individual I mentioned before. But if you are going to compare anyone in the wrestling business to that individual, anybody that is living behind the curve right now, it's you, buddy. It's you, Tony. You're living in the sandbox, bro. You're just tossing sand. You're hanging with the sand bees, dude. By the way, Tony, they don't sting. Don't worry. You won't have to get a Band-Aid for that. Like you had to get a neck brace for that really bad beatdown that you suffered on your wrestling show that you carried over to the NFL draft and on the same weekend invoked the name of the person that I talked about. Man, I hope that's the pettiest of the moves Tony Khan's going to make, because what could be worse than that? Oh, I don't know. Placating your fan base, Jaguars fan base, with a wrestling storyline. And Tony, I appreciate what you did, Tony. I really do. You tried to bring it back. Obviously, you were listening to the King's Court and you heard my advice. So there is an update on this story. And I talked about it on Saturday. That neck brace that Tony Khan was wearing for the NFL draft, that same neck brace that he was wearing when he invoked that name that we talked about, well, that is going to be going up for auction. It's going up for auction, y'all. So Tony Khan, this is according to Rich Eisen, Tony Khan has texted. He heard me say that, hey, when you're done with the brace, would you like to sign it and donate it with the proceeds going to St. Jude's Research Children's Hospital, yada, yada, yada. He said, absolutely, I would. So that's going to be auctioned off for Rich Eisen's charity, which works with St. Jude's. It's Rich Run. So you guys know this neck brace kind of got me a little bit out of sorts. I needed an adjustment, right? So here's what I want. I want that neck brace. I want the neck brace. Give me the neck brace. Can you imagine? Look, I got that gold miners helmet behind me. Screw it. Who wants the gold miners helmet signed by the entire team? I don't want that. I want a glass shadow box, and I want Tony Khan's neck brace right there. Like, who's with me? Do you want to own a percentage of Tony Khan's neck brace with me? It could be the King's Court neck brace, and it's going to be signed by Tony Khan. Can you imagine if we got that? I mean, what do I need to do? I'll go wash cars. I'll set up a lemonade stand. You just tell me what it is, and I will do it. If you guys have ideas, get me those. Do I need to do a GoFundMe? What's it going to be? Because that neck brace has to be mine. Absolutely has to be mine. And Tony, I don't want any other of your medical equipment. I don't want anything from the past. I don't want the bullet from the times you keep shooting yourself in the foot, Tony. I just want your neck brace. But good job by you. Good job by Rich Eisen. Good job getting some publicity. Good way to save that, Tony, because that was 2.5 days that you were not about to get back. You were not about to get those back, and the auction saves it. So credit to all involved. If you're a Jaguars fan, maybe you're used to this type of behavior from the Jaguars ownership, but I'll tell you what, if I was a Sacramento Kings fan, I am a Kings fan, that was Tony Khan, owner of the Kings. And his dad is the owner of the Jaguars. Let's be clear about that. But if that was Tony Khan in the Kings war room, how the hell would that make you feel? You coming off a bad, bitter season, right? And we're forwarding wrestling storylines while you're also concurrently running wrestling shows at your football stadium, while you also have draft parties going on the field of your football stadium. Bad look, Tony. Good save. Good save. Hey, thank you all for being here on the King's Court. We will be back tomorrow. Huge thanks to Condog, NBA Guru Zach, ESPN, ABC, Locked on Suns, some news channel in Montana. Not a big thank you to the dude who snapped that selfie, and everybody else. This has been a great day on the King's Court. Loved having you here. We will be back tomorrow live at 2 p.m. You never know who's going to pop up on the King's Court. Looking forward to that. Hopefully you enjoyed the Ry-Dohs. That's going to be a weekly segment on Mondays going forward. And I want to get yours from now on. So make sure that you're calling. Make sure you hit me on the X if you don't follow me there at Ryan_in_Sacktown. And of course, I've talked a lot about the King's Court, but let's also end on this. Do not forget about If You Don't Like That. I'm sure a lot of you are subscribed. I know we have a ton of viewership that's actually on X, but and we thank you for that wherever you may be watching. But if you subscribe to Grant's YouTube page as well, you'll get notifications, or you can choose to get notifications on when we're going live with content, different shows. Again, the King's Court Live is a daily thing at 2 p.m. You don't like that. But tomorrow, Grant, the man, will be back. I think he's probably going to be watching some hockey. Those Vegas Golden Knights are playing tonight. His attention's going to be there. I'm sure he also has some thoughts on the NFL draft and such. So it's been a great day. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Monday. Go Kings.
Holy moly, Jim Bowley.
Light the beam. Court is